Hello friends and enemies, it's me Isabel here with my January, I about said February, my January wrap up. I read a lot in January and I'm going to tell you right now, don't start adding up the books I talk about and don't talk about. You're going to know soon, okay? You're going to know soon. And that's not a bad thing, but you got a couple more weeks and you will know all the books I read that I have not been able to talk about. And I hate being that person. Like, I don't love being like, I can't talk about secret project things, but can't talk about secret project things. You will know in a few weeks though. So keep that in mind. January was a wild reading month. I really kicked the year off with a bang, I feel like. Intentional or not, who knows? But I read a lot of things and that amounted to a lot to talk about today. So we are going to dive right into my stats and then I will have timestamps for every star rating section below if you want to jump around, and manga, etc. And if you're curious about my read what you want updates, that's in my February reset, which is where I will be tracking updates like that the year. I have some thoughts on read what you want and how I might continue to slightly hold myself accountable as time goes forward, but either way, there's that. All right, let's dive right into my stats. So in January, I did read 31 books. Yes, that amounts to a book a day. Not about, exactly a book a day. I don't know how we got here. I mean, I do, and it's partially manga, but we're here. So that was 8,091 pages read total, and I listened to about 30 and a half hours of audiobooks. My average rating was a 3.87, and I feel like this shows I had a secret project going on because I definitely usually am in a 4 range on that because I try not to read things I don't love. I read 2 KU titles, 12 books from the library. I had 2 rereads. So for our age group breakdown, I had 17 adult titles and 14 YA, which does count shonen, and shoujo titles that I read are counted as YA. I did not read any middle grade books in January. And then for formatting, I read 9 ebooks, 7 audiobooks, and 15 manga. And, I read, 15 manga or manhwas. So I'm grouping my manga and manhwas together right now. I will break it out if I notice I have a high spike in manhwas. Or also same thing when I read light novels, those will be their own category. But for now, we're here. All right, let's dive into my ratings and all the fun things. So I did DNF a book this month. I can't talk about it. I cannot wait for you to see what book I DNF'd, but I DNF'd it. Those pages did count towards my 8,000 pages because I read a lot of that book before I DNF'd it. Choices were made. It's fine. Anyways, I didn't have any 1, 2, or 2.5 or 3 stars that I can talk about at the very least. So let's dive into my 3.5 star rating, which is Liberty Falls by Lee Jacquat. I think I was like waffling when I first finished this book on what I wanted to rate it. The more I think about it, I think it's a 3.5. I liked the sensory play in this. I enjoyed the sex in it, but I just didn't care that much about the rivalry. And like, though she's an author of color, I also still get like about like a fire chief and a police chief. But I think the another 3.5 star that I read is Wolf Duty by Asa Marie Bradley. This is from the HEA Collective's Patreon group that I'm part of. So I joined their Patreon. You get 1 novella a month at the tier I'm at. I don't pay for the expensive tier. So this is one that I picked, February? No, not February. Was this January's? I don't know. Anyways, I'm trying to read through them this month and this year because I'm behind. I haven't been reading them as I get them. So I'd like to read through all the ones I've gotten since I joined. And this one was okay. I think this story felt a smidge rushed for me. And I also think that the world was interesting though. Like, I really liked the world that was laid out in here, which I know ties back into her other book series from when I went and looked. But I felt a little bit rushed on the plotting, but I do love a fated mate and like a, oh God, I have feelings for you very quickly thing. So that was fun. And I do think I would be curious enough to check out more books by this author. So for me, that was great because it kind of gave me an introduction to her writing and her world. So there's that. And yeah, communication was also lacking for me in this one. I think I would have liked them to communicate just a little bit better with each other for being adults, but it still was a fun one. I'm excited for the next Holly Knights series to drop in a couple days after this goes up. And hopefully I'll have read enough books from my TBR by then to check it out on KU. Then we're going to move right into my 4-star reads. So I did read The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I talked about that in my mid-month wrap-up. And I also have a whole vlog where I read this whole series. So if you're curious, you can go check that out. Then I read Muscles and Monsters by Ashley Bennett. This was my members pick for January. So I read that and we talked about it in my Discord, and I also did an exclusive reading vlog for them of that book. Muscles and Monsters was an interesting monster romance. I was concerned for a chunk of it because it felt somewhat furry-esque. And those of you who read it will probably agree with me. But at the end of the day, I also am still struggling on if it's a 4 or like a 3.5, because I didn't love some of the body image issues we had with the X. Like, there's some body shaming about the X and it was weird. I'm not comfortable with that, but I still really enjoyed the romance, and Atlas was a super cinnamon roll of a hero, which I absolutely loved, at least. Next, we have Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. This for me is about a 4. I just thought it was fun. Again, I've talked about this, I don't read a ton of YA romances these days, so my bar for them is pretty low. And this one for me just did fine. It was cute, it was fun. I enjoyed the childhood friends to enemies to lovers track that they went on, and I enjoyed how they processed some of that. And then Celine, obviously our female main character, very blatantly during this book, needed help. Like, she needed some therapy about stuff with her dad and that. So that made sense, and it worked pretty well for me on why she distrusted our hero Brad, which, like, to make me like a hero named Brad or Bradley is astounding. But I guess Talia managed it. So yeah, I enjoyed this. I think it was just a fun, cute little romp of a YA book. And it was perfect for my little road trip. So next I read in the 4 stars, Chick Magnet by Emma Barry. This is her Montlake romance, so the Amazon romance people, publishing people. So that is from Amazon, and it is on KU audio as well. So if you're curious, highly recommend. I got an arc of this and I was super pleased with it. What piqued my interest for this one is that she's a chicken influencer and he's a vet, and he doesn't like her because he thinks she's encouraging people to get chickens who don't know what they're doing. He just like kind of doesn't like her, and she ends up moving to his small town, and they live across the street from each other or next door to each other. And their meet cute is him chasing down one of her chickens that got loose. And it is so freaking cute, y'all. It's so freaking cute. So he helps her catch a chicken, and they like slowly become friends and bond over a lot of things. And he learns a lot about her like shitty ex, which like the book doesn't overly focus on the shitty ex in a bad way, but like the shitty ex has basically ended up alienating and isolating her from her best friend and people in her life. And she's kind of learning to like reclaim this massive influence she gained in 2020 over chickens. And they're just like slowly falling in love. His vet clinic's not doing well. All the tropes, like, and all the small town vibes that you could want in this book. So absolutely loved it. You know, just an absolute blast. Highly recommend. Highly recommend. Let's talk about my 4.5-star reads. So I read Entranced by the Basilisk, which I talked about in my mid-month. This was an arc from Lillian. Adored it. Good times all around. Didn't think I'd love snake heroes. Then I read Terms and Conditions. The McCain brothers, y'all, listen, the hype was real, and I actually liked the book because honestly, just wow. Like I'm still surprised that I liked these as much as I did. I did a reading vlog for all of them with full like thoughts and spoilers talk on there. But Terms and Conditions is book 2. And Declan and Iris were everything. I really, really loved them. I loved their relationship. I loved how he had to learn to just do better. And then watching him like soften as he realized, oh shit, I have feelings. Everything. Loved this book. This was a great time. Next we have my 5-star reads, which will surprise no one probably, but Clean Sweep by Alona Andrews, which is part of the Innkeeper Chronicles read through we're doing with some of my friends that I'm on. And I reread this, loved it. This is such a fun story. This is about a girl named Dina, something like that. Anyway, she has magical abilities and takes care of an inn that is like a waypoint for various types of beings and creatures. This is like that mix of paranormal and sci-fi together that is really, really cute. Really, really fun. Definitely a little graphic at times. So just FYI, a little graphic sometimes. It's kind of a cozy romance, I would call it almost. But again, there's some graphic moments. I give this 5 stars. It's not surprising. I loved this. I'm really excited to keep reading the series and actually finish it. But for me, I think what hit the most on this is though it's like a slow build to like a kiss. I just really loved our heroine and how fun she was. Also, just the general situations that were happening in this, hilarious. And then we have Final Offer by Lauren Asher. This surprised me, I guess we'll call it, but didn't, because again, I felt like every book I read in this series just got better. But I also like was torn because I kind of didn't want to say bye yet to the series, and I read it all in a month. So what was I thinking? Who knows? So this, for me, Final Offer, I think is my favorite. I really liked Cal. I do want to give a big content note here that this book deals heavily with addiction issues. So if that's something you don't want to read about, specifically alcoholism and hard drugs, skip the book until you're in the right place for it, because it is a heavy hitter on this one. This follows two childhood friends who drifted apart / became enemies. They became enemies at some point and / like exes, and we're following their reunification because of the grandpa who is making all of these boys come to terms with a lot of things. And the way this wrapped up the storyline worked really well for me. I really liked how we wrapped up the dad's storyline and all the boys, and we got this really great like extended epilogue situation like a few years in the future that I thought was really just delightful. And I absolutely loved it. And then my one and only 6-star of January is All Systems Red by Martha Wells, which was a reread. I will say that this was a reread. I listened to this on our road trip because I'm trying to read through the whole series here in the next couple months. I loved this just as much the second time around as I did the first. I think this series is so funny and poignant, and it hits points that you're not expecting out of a series about a robot that has become somewhat sentient, and what that means and all the things around that, and why they want to just lay there and watch Netflix instead of work and do other things, and like relatable. It was a battle for me to make myself film this video today, but here I am doing it. It's fine. Anyways, let's now jump into all the manga I read. Again, you're gonna notice these numbers don't add up to what you're hearing about, and that's okay. I promise you, in just a few weeks you'll know more. So first up, for manga that I read in the first half of the month, I read My Love Mix-Up Volume 6. I loved The Saviors. I also read The Saviors, Book Cafe, and Another World, Volumes 3 and 4, which I said was the last volume, and we're actually getting Volume 5. Thank you for someone who told me in the comments. For whatever reason, my brain was convinced we were only getting 4 of these and not 5, so I saw the last volume cover, and I'm so excited. Then I read LCK, volumes 11 through 18, while Shay was here because she brought them for me to read. And that's a series I'm really glad I'm caught up on and not spending my money on. But I will probably buy digitals for the next few so I can actually like finish the full story, but we'll see. I also read The Two of Them Are Pretty Much Like This, Volume 2, and Honey Lemon Soda, Volume 1. Then the new ones that I read towards the end of the month were Abe-kun's Got Me Now, Volume 8. Loved this. It was great. I think this was just a really cute continuation of the story. I need to read volume 9 this month. I'm working on like getting through a lot of my digital manga, so I need to like make an effort to pick it up. So yeah, I enjoyed this. This is about a guy who's the karate champ at his school and the girl who he has a crush on / is now dating, and they're just adorable relationship. It's very cute, very sweet, very fun, slice of lifey, and a little dramatic and over the top at times. The other thing I read was On or Off. This is a manhwa. I got them on sale digitally for like $2.99. So I did buy volumes 1 and 2, and I have to read them before Read What You Own is over, because that's like only fair, because I allowed myself to buy this in like the first week of Read What You Own. So this one is definitely a manhwa that is not going to be for everyone. I feel like this is a men loving men one. This follows a very like gruff and kind of cruel hero who is like the CEO of a company, and then this boy who's trying to get his company in at that company with a game that they're making for them, like part of a competition thing. They get selected. He kind of offers himself to one night, and there's kind of borderline rape, I would call it. It feels weird when you read it. I'm not going to deny this, but I did really like their dynamic so far, so I'm going to read volume 2. It's not one I know if I want to own or not yet, but I may read them digitally, especially if I can pick them up on sale for like $5 or something, or I may also just go read them online, because you can read them on, I think they're on Webtoons. I'm not sure which app they're on. They're on one of the apps, so I may opt for that. But we definitely have a very like strong alpha hero and a meek hero, so that's interesting. I'm curious to see more about it, but it's also just like, you know, one of those. Okay, So that's everything I read and can talk about in January. Again, I hate being that person, but that's where we're at. I didn't want to alter my numbers because that's too much work, to be honest with you, for me to be like, this one and this one I can't talk about. So yeah, it was a good reading month. Let me know how your January in 2023 reading started out. And if you don't want to do that, leave me a cold emoji of your choice, something related to the cold, because I'm freaking freezing my butt off right now. And it's my own fault. It's my own fault. I'm in shorts because why would I put pants on? Choices were made. Okay, and it's like 30 something out. It's fine. My house isn't that cold, but I'm just chilly. But yeah, so leave me something cold related in the comments, and I will have links to all these books that I just talked about, as well as links to my friend anywhere on the internet, and I will talk to y'all in just a few days. Bye!
Already packing, come with me. I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be. Life with no distractions. We'll get